Hello and welcome to the Martini Shot. My name is Brandon and today I'll be reviewing the 2022 murder mystery comedy Glass Onion, a Knives Out story. But before I do that, let's solve the mystery of our thirst with this light tropical cocktail I've named Crystal Klear. And hey, if you enjoy movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to help support the channel. Glass Onion takes our favorite Kentucky Fried Detective Benoit Blanc from the stiff, vintage mansions of old money to the glass-coated, self-stroking private islands of new money. The original Knives Out was one of the first few films I've actually reviewed on the channel, and for that movie I made a cozy, warming brown sugar old-fashioned to fit the fall aesthetic. So this time around I wanted to make one more suited to the sandy beaches and tropical environments of the new film setting. For the Crystal Klear, I'm taking inspiration from the Cuban Breeze, a fairly popular cocktail that Birdie J is a fan of that contains pineapple and almond flavors, as well as the experimental energy source named Klear, with a K, that the island owner Miles Braun is looking to rush to the masses. The energy source is very crystalline in appearance, so it immediately made me think of rock candy, so I thought it'd be fun to use some as a Swizzler for the drink. It may be December at the time of this recording, but I'm looking forward to Christmas on the beach. Let's get into it. Let's go ahead and start with our base spirit. We're going to be using a pineapple rum. Definitely going to want to make sure this is a clear rum, and you're going to be doing 2 ounces. All right, next we're going to be throwing in a little bit of lime juice, but not just any lime juice. If you can, I would prefer to use a clarified lime juice. If you don't know what clarified means, it basically means taking a juice and kind of removing all of the pulp, all that extra gunk in it, and pretty much just bringing it to its clearest form possible. As you can see, I attempted it here, but it is still a little bit green. Thankfully though, a lot of that pulp and a lot of the gunk from the lime is pretty much completely removed thanks to using a tea strainer and a fine mesh strainer. So it's going to give a nice clear look to it that's not going to impede the color of the cocktail, which is my biggest concern when I was building this. And it's not completely needed for this to be clarified, just if you want it to kind of have that really crystal clear appearance, that's what you would want to do, but it's not completely needed just because it's still going to taste the exact same. And we're going to do 1/2 ounce of lime juice. And then if you're familiar with a Cuban Breeze, you know it uses a almond liqueur in it. However, almond liqueurs usually come in a darker, browner color, and like I said, we don't want to impede on the opaqueness of this cocktail. So instead of using the almond liqueur, we're actually going to go for almond extract, which is completely clear. And like any other extract, this stuff is pretty powerful, so you really only need to use a very tiny amount. And for this, we're going to be using only 1/2 teaspoon. All right, let's go ahead and throw some ice into our mixing glass and stir to chill. We'll need a rocks glass. And then you can go ahead and fill this with ice. You don't want to fill it up completely because you want to leave a little bit room for the sparkling water that we're about to add. All right, you can get your sparkling water now and top it up. And now we can go ahead and stir to combine again just to get everything mixed together, but for this we're not going to be using the spoon, we're actually going to be using the rock candy stick. And go ahead and give it a little bit of a swizzle. And I'm assuming, I can't really 100% verify this, but by stirring it you're getting a little bit of that sugar from the rock candy into the drink itself, so that's going to give a little additional sweetness. And there you have it, now you have the Crystal Klear. Let's go ahead and give it a taste test. So yeah, it's really interesting because it's very light, as I'm sure you can kind of guess from the appearance. Crystal clear, there's nothing really impeding texture-wise, but the flavors are still very, very strong. The pineapple definitely comes through and it's definitely the leading flavor you'll get. You do get a little bit of that almond on the back end of the taste, but up front, yeah, you get a lot of the pineapple. The lime is a little bit in the middle, it's a little bit hidden, but you can definitely tell it's there. It's really light, really crisp, a little bit tart. And of course, the sparkling water just makes it very light, very bubbly. So yeah, this is a very good, very light kind of beachy drink that I'm a big fan of actually. I definitely think you do get a little bit of sweetness from stirring it with the rock candy. I definitely recommend going the extra mile and garnishing it to a tea because not only does it help the flavor, but I think it just looks good too. You don't get to see too many super clear cocktails that aren't just straight up martinis, and I always like finding something like this. Now that we have our drink, let's dive straight into the review of Glass Onion. 2019 was an absolute banger of a year for film. You had Parasite, The Lighthouse, Midsummer, Uncut Gems, and of course, Cats. When it came to comedy films, in my eyes, the best of that year had to be Knives Out. Director Rian Johnson, who gave us Brick, Looper, and one of the best Star Wars films of the past 2 decades, and I say that completely unironically, gave us a smart, tight, and fun callback to the days of Agatha Christie and murder mysteries. The fact that the plot had very few holes, was cleverly written, and discussed themes prevalent to the modern day made it an absolute success in my eyes. Hearing that Johnson was planning a follow-up with returning detective Benoit Blanc filled me with both excitement and caution. Was Knives Out lightning in a bottle, or could Johnson somehow replicate that magic once again? Anyone doubting Johnson's storytelling ability should absolutely think twice, because Glass Onion is more murderous, hilarious fun that does manage to replicate a lot of what I liked about the first film and inject it into this new film. An intriguing mystery and a colorful cast of unlikable characters are present in full force, though it did start to dawn on me how similar this film was to the first, and whether or not that was a bad thing. Set on a private island owned by an eccentric tech billionaire, Detective Benoit Blanc is once again roped into a mystery only he can solve. The possible suspects are just as silly and two-faced as the Thrombey family from the previous film. A hypermasculine streamer, a fading Hollywood starlet, and a no-nonsense governor are just some of the big personalities present, all with something to gain. Like the first film, the cast is well acted, hilarious, and for the most part, pretty deplorable. Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc is the only returning character from the first, and he's just as fun to watch as ever. The film does a good job fleshing out the character further, sticking him more at the forefront this time around that allows for deeper insight into his thought process and personal life. The accent hasn't gotten old yet. The rich and famous are his suspects once again, with the ensemble certainly being a lot more colorful this time around. You've got Dave Bautista as a hyper-masculine streamer with a gun always on him, Kate Hudson as a washed-up supermodel, and Catherine Hahn as a governor running for a seat in the Senate, and of course, Edward Norton as the brash billionaire hosting this get-together of deplorables. The characters are intertwined rather nicely, which leads to a lot of different rabbit holes to dive down in their relationships. And I can't talk too much about her, but Janelle Monáe is very good here, giving a very unique performance that I can't go into too much for spoilers' sake. But I'll say her character is quite surprising and adds even more interesting layers to the film's plot. Johnson continues to show his strengths in concocting winding plots full of swerves, red herrings, and tiny clues that don't feel either too left field or obvious. Maybe it's because I'm catching onto his tricks, but I didn't find this mystery as hard to figure out as the previous films. That being said, I still love how the film kept me second-guessing myself, and even though it ended up where I anticipated, this was certainly more about the journey than the destination for me. It helps that I think the comedy tended to be a bit stronger this time around, as I thought some of the writing from the previous film was a bit cringe-inducing. While there aren't as many lame jokes in this one, there's still a decent amount of references to pop culture that occasionally both dates the film and makes it sound a bit out of touch. Do people even still play Among Us? While I really enjoyed this film, I do think it felt a bit too similar to the first at times, mainly in how the story progresses and how it seems to reuse some narrative beats. I get that this is maybe the type of style Johnson is settling on, but it did make me feel like I was watching the first film at times. Don't get me wrong, it's a positive at times, but I would have liked to see Johnson mix it up just a little bit more. Where the positive differences lie is in the film's scope and production. Everything is bigger, more insane, and absolutely more expensive when you get a load of this set. From that point of view, it did what a sequel needed to do, and I commend the team for that. Like its predecessor, Glass Onion is smartly written, comically acted to a T, and filled with enough false flags to make Arthur Doyle's head spin. Even though it doesn't deviate too much from the established formula, that might be exactly what you're looking for. It's certainly a film that warrants multiple watches, and now that it's on Netflix, you can do just that. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go ahead and read all that hate mail I've received from my Last Jedi comment. For my rating, I'm giving this film 4 Mona Lisas out of 5. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of The Martini Shot. If you saw Glass Onion, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. And if you like what you saw here and would like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me across all social media channels. Those links are down in the description below. And if you enjoy movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, be sure to check out my website, martinishot.blog. Until next time, thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Live deliciously, but please remember to drink responsibly.